The morning sun streamed through the kitchen windows as Ada's hands moved with practiced confidence, grinding fresh pepper for the breakfast stew. 6 months had passed since that terrible day, and the mansion had found its rhythm, a new rhythm built on humility, respect, and honest labor. Her once manicured nails were now short and practical, her designer wrappers replaced with comfortable Ankara prints, her face free of the heavy makeup that once masked her insecurities. Perfect consistency, Mama Kemi observed from her seat at the kitchen table, her weathered face glowing with pride as she sipped her morning tea. The bruises had long faded, but the memory of that day remained, not as a wound, but as a turning point that had saved them all. "You've become a better cook than me, my daughter." Ada smiled, the title, my daughter, still warming her heart each time she heard it. "Never better than you, Mama. Different, maybe, but you taught me that cooking is about love, not perfection." She ladled the stew into serving bowls, her movements efficient and purposeful. The graceful woman who once commanded staff with sharp words now worked alongside them with genuine partnership. Chioma entered carrying fresh bread from the local bakery, her kind face bright with morning energy. "Madam Ada, the bread seller said to greet you. She said ever since you started buying from her directly instead of sending someone, her business has doubled. Other mansion wives are following your example." "That's wonderful," Ada replied, accepting the warm loaves. "Mama taught me that supporting our community isn't charity, it's family responsibility." She paused, remembering the woman she used to be, the one who wouldn't have known the bread seller's name, much less her struggles. The transformation still amazed her sometimes, how completely she had shed that skin. The dining room gradually filled with the household, Tun descending in his business suit, still as commanding and handsome as ever, his presence filling the space with quiet authority. Amara and Beezy chatting about the young maid's upcoming salon opening. Emeka discussing football with the gardener. This daily breakfast had become sacred, a time when hierarchy dissolved and everyone simply was. Tun caught Ada's eye across the table, and something passed between them. Not quite the passion of their early marriage, but something deeper, more tested, more real. They were rebuilding, brick by brick, and some days the structure felt solid. Other days, Ada could still sense his watchfulness, the way he observed her interactions, looking for cracks in her transformation. She didn't blame him. Trust, once shattered, took time to rebuild. "I have news," Tund announced as breakfast concluded, his deep voice carrying that tone that meant business was about to intersect with family. "The Singapore investors, the ones financing the West Africa expansion, they're coming to Lagos next week. Mr. Chun and his wife specifically requested a dinner at our home. They want to see authentic Nigerian family life before committing $80 million to the project." The table quieted. Everyone understood what this meant. This wasn't just a business dinner. It was a performance with enormous stakes. Ada felt her stomach tighten, old anxieties surfacing like dormant seeds touched by rain. "How many people?" Mama Kimmy asked practically, her mind already planning. 8. Mr. and Mrs. Chun, their advisor, 3 of my board members, and their wives. "I know it's short notice." "It's fine," Ada heard herself say, her voice steadier than she felt. "We'll manage." But inside, a war had begun. This was exactly the kind of event the old Ada had lived for, the chance to showcase wealth, impress important people, prove her status. The new Ada knew better, but would she be strong enough to maintain her values under pressure? After breakfast, as Ada cleared dishes alongside the staff, a practice that still amazed visiting relatives, Tun found her alone in the kitchen. His tall frame filled the doorway, his handsome face serious. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. "I can host them at a hotel, or—" "No," Ada interrupted, meeting his eyes directly. "This is our home. Our real home, where we eat breakfast together and Mama teaches cooking lessons, and nobody pretends to be something they're not. If they want authentic family life, that's what we'll show them." She paused, then added softly, "Unless you don't trust me to handle it." Tund studied her face, and she let him look, let him search for pretense or the old calculating Ada. "I trust who you've become," he said finally. "I'm just not sure the world is ready for her." Then it's time the world learned. Mama Kimmy's voice came from behind them, her sturdy frame appearing with a dish towel. "Ada is right. We show them real family, real Nigerian values. If their $80 million requires us to perform like circus animals, then we don't need it. Tun smiled, that rare full smile that reminded Ada why she'd fallen in love with him 7 years ago. Spoken like the woman who raised me. Very well. We do it our way. He kissed his mother's forehead, squeezed Ada's shoulder, and left for the office. Alone with Mama Kemi, Ada finally let her anxiety show. What if I mess this up? What if the old me comes out when I'm stressed? What if the sun doesn't rise tomorrow? Mama Kemi interrupted gently. We don't borrow trouble, Ada. You've changed because you chose to change, not because Tun forced you. That choice was yours 6 months ago, and it will be yours next week. The question isn't whether you can do this. The question is whether you remember why you're doing it. Ada nodded, but her hands trembled slightly as she washed the dishes. She had been tested in this kitchen, in the garden, in therapy sessions, and quiet moments of self-reflection. But she had never been tested in her old world, surrounded by the wealth and status that had once defined her. Next week would reveal whether her transformation could survive in the environment that had corrupted her in the first place. That afternoon, as Ada worked in the garden alongside Mama Kemi, her phone buzzed with a message from her old friend Ngozi. The first communication in 6 months. Heard about the Chin dinner. Everyone's talking. Some say you've lost your mind, living like a housemaid. Others say Tun broke you. I don't know what to think. Are you okay? Ada stared at the message. Dirt under her nails, sweat on her brow, genuine peace in her heart despite the anxiety about next week. How could she explain to Ngozi that breaking had been the best thing that ever happened to her? That losing her mind had helped her find her soul? She typed back, I'm better than okay. I'm real. Come to the dinner. See for yourself. The reply came quickly. Are you sure? Your actual dinner with the Chinese investors? Yes. Come. Bring your authentic self, not your performance self. We're done with performances in this house. As the sun set over Lagos, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, Ada sat on the garden bench with Mama Kemi, both women tired from the day's work, but satisfied in a way that leisure had never provided. You're worried about next week, Mama Kemi observed. Not a question, but a statement. Terrified, Ada admitted. Not of cooking or hosting. Of who I might become when I'm surrounded by that world again. Mama Kemi took Ada's hand, her weathered palm against Ada's calloused one. 2 different textures, same strength. Let me tell you something about transformation, my daughter. It's not a destination you reach and then you're done. It's a choice you make every single day, sometimes every single hour. Next week, you'll make that choice in front of witnesses. That's all. Just the same choice you've been making every morning at 6 a.m. for 6 months. What if I make the wrong choice? Then you make the right one the next time. That's called being human. Ada, we don't expect perfection. We expect honesty, effort, and the courage to keep choosing growth over comfort. As they sat together in the peaceful garden, Ada realized that the test wasn't really about impressing investors or proving herself to old friends. It was about proving to herself that her transformation wasn't dependent on isolation from temptation, but could stand firm even when the old world came knocking. She had 6 days to prepare, not just the menu in the house, but her own heart for the battle between who she was and who she used to be. The next morning brought unexpected visitors. Ada was kneading dough for bread, a skill Mama Kemi had taught her that she now found meditative. When Chioma appeared at the kitchen door, her kind face troubled. Madam Ada, there are women at the gate. They say they're your friends. Should I let them in? Ada's hands stilled in the flour. She knew without asking which friends. The old circle. The ones who had filled her head with materialism and competition, who had measured worth in designer labels and social media likes. She hadn't seen them since her transformation began, had quietly exited their group chats and declined their invitations until they stopped coming. Let them in, she said finally, wiping her hands on her apron. A simple cotton apron that the old Ada would have found mortifying. Show them to the living room. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Mama Kemi, who had been supervising the kitchen preparations, touched Ada's shoulder. You want me to come with you? No, Mama. This is something I need to face alone. Ada removed her apron, checked her reflection in the window. Simple wrapper, natural hair and a practical bun, face free of makeup, but glowing with health and honest work, and walked to meet her past. They were arranged on the sofas like a fashion editorial. 5 women in designer everything, faces beat to perfection, accessories worth more than most Nigerians earned in a year. Ngozi, Kemi, Funmi, Toke, and Zara, her old inner circle, the women who had once been her mirror and her measuring stick. The silence when Ada entered was deafening. She saw their eyes catalog every change. The simple clothes, the bare face, the calloused hands, the genuine smile that had replaced her practiced social expression. Ada, Ngozi finally spoke, standing. We came because we were worried. The rumors are probably true, Ada finished calmly, sitting in a chair rather than beside them. Establishing space, establishing change. What have you heard? Kemi leaned forward, her perfectly contoured face showing confusion mixed with something like concern. That you work like a maid in your own house. That you've stopped attending events, stopped posting, stopped being you. Some people say Tund is punishing you for something. Others say you've had a breakdown. Ada smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. I did have a breakdown. The best thing that ever happened to me. I broke down all the fake parts until only the real me remained. But why? Funmi burst out, her designer bag, a $30,000 Birkin, clutched like a shield. You had everything. You were living the dream we all wanted. Was I? Ada asked quietly. Or was I living a performance of a dream, exhausting myself trying to prove something that didn't need proving? She leaned forward, her posture open and genuine. Let me ask you something. Do you know the names of the people who work in your houses? Not just first names, their full names, their children's names, their struggles and dreams. The silence was answer enough. I didn't either, Ada continued. I lived in this mansion surrounded by people I treated as furniture. I married a good man and made him miserable because I was miserable and didn't know it. I had a mother-in-law who loved me and her voice caught, but she pushed through. I hurt her. Badly. Because she represented everything I was afraid of. Authenticity, humility, unconditional love. Toke shifted uncomfortably. So what? You're some kind of saint now? You're better than us. No, Ada said firmly. I'm not better than anyone. I'm just finally becoming who I actually am instead of who I thought I should be. There's a difference. Zara, who had been quiet, spoke up. The dinner next week. With the Chinese investors. We heard Tund is letting you host it. Is that some kind of test? Everything is a test, Ada replied. Life is a test. But this one I'm choosing to take. I'm hosting it our way. Real Nigerian hospitality, real family, real food made with love, not hired caterers and performances. If that costs us the investment, so be it. That's easy to say when you're married to a billionaire, Kemi muttered. Some of us need to maintain our images to maintain our lifestyles. The old Ada would have bristled at that, would have launched into defensive competition. The new Ada simply felt sad. You're right. I have privilege. But that privilege nearly destroyed me. I'm not saying my way is the only way. I'm just saying, what if we stopped performing for each other? What if we actually supported each other instead of competing? Ngozi stood, pacing to the window. You invited me to the dinner. What? Because I miss you. The real you. The girl I met in university who stayed up all night helping me study, who cried with me when my grandmother died, who laughed until we couldn't breathe over stupid jokes. That Ngozi, not the woman performing perfection on Instagram. She's still here, Ngozi whispered, and Ada saw tears threatening her perfect makeup. Just buried, like you were. Then unbury her. Come to the dinner. Let's show these investors what Nigerian women really are, strong, capable, authentic, kind. Not performing circus animals trying to impress them with how Western and wealthy we can be. The women exchanged glances, a silent conversation happening in looks and tiny gestures. Finally, Funmi stood. I need to think about this. It's a lot. The others nodded, standing, preparing to leave. At the door, Ngozi turned back. Ada? Did Tund really almost divorce you? Ada met her eyes steadily. He gave me a choice. Leave with dignity and money, or stay and transform. I chose to stay. Best decision of my life. And he forgave you? Just like that? No, not just like that. Forgiveness isn't a moment. It's a process. We're still in it. Some days are better than others. But we're both choosing to rebuild rather than abandon. That's what real love looks like. It's not Instagram perfect, but it's real. After they left, Ada returned to the kitchen where Mama Kemi was training Amara on proper pepper grinding techniques. The young maid looked up, her innocent face curious. Madam Ada, those were your friends? They were. Maybe they still are, underneath all the performance. Time will tell. Mama Kimmy studied Ada's face. How do you feel? Sad for them. Grateful for you. Nervous about the dinner. Determined to stay true to myself, no matter what. She returned to her bread dough, kneading with renewed purpose. Mama, when you were selling akara by the roadside, did people judge you? Every day? Some pitied me. Others looked down on me. A few admired me. But I couldn't control what they thought. I could only control my dignity, my work ethic, and my love for my son. That was enough. Teach me that, Ada said. Teach me to not need their approval. I can't teach you that, Mama Kimmy replied gently. That's something you decide for yourself, every day, sometimes every hour. But I can remind you, you're already doing it. 6 months ago, you would have been devastated by their judgment, would have immediately started planning how to win their approval back. Today, you invited them to see your authentic life. That's growth, my daughter. Don't discount it. The rest of the week passed in a flurry of preparation. Ada and Mama Kimmy planned a menu that was elegant but authentically Nigerian. No fusion confusion or trying to be Western. Jollof rice, perfectly seasoned. Ifo riro rich with stockfish and crayfish. Suya with traditional spices. Puff puff for dessert. Real food, made with skill and love, not caterers trying to impress with complexity. Tund watched the preparations with quiet approval, occasionally finding Ada alone to check in. You're handling this well, he observed one evening, finding her in the study reviewing the seating chart. I'm terrified, she admitted. But I'm also excited. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. Fear means you care. Excitement means you're alive. He sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. A small intimacy, but significant for them. Physical affection was still being rebuilt, carefully, like everything else. What if they hate it? Ada voiced her deepest worry. What if they expect fancy European food and celebrity chefs, and we serve them home cooking? Then they're not the partners we want. Tund replied firmly. Ada, I'm not just testing you with this dinner. I'm testing them. If they can't appreciate authentic Nigerian hospitality, if they need us to perform Western wealth to feel comfortable investing, then their values don't align with where I want to take this company. You're helping me filter, not just impress. Ada turned to look at him, really look at him. This man she had almost lost. This man who had chosen redemption over revenge, wisdom over rage. I love you, she said, the words still feeling new despite years of marriage. Before, she had said them out of habit, out of expectation. Now, she meant them with every fiber of her being. I love you too, he replied, and she heard the complexity in those words, the love that remained, the hurt still healing, the hope cautiously growing. But Ada, you need to know something. If the old you shows up at this dinner, the performing, people-pleasing, status-obsessed Ada, that's okay. You're human. But afterward, we need to talk honestly about whether we're moving forward or just pretending. I understand, Ada said, appreciating his honesty even as it stung. I won't pretend. Whatever happens, it will be authentic, even if it's messy. Messy authentic beats polished fake every time, Tund said, kissing her forehead before leaving her to her planning. The night before the dinner, Ada couldn't sleep. She lay in the bedroom she had returned to 3 months ago, returned to with permission, with conditions, with the understanding that nothing could be taken for granted again. Through the window, Lagos glittered with nightlife. Millions of people pursuing millions of dreams, each one convinced their way was the right way. Beside her, Tund slept peacefully, his breathing steady and deep. She studied his profile in the moonlight, still as handsome as the day they met. But now she saw beyond handsome to good, to wise, to worth fighting for. She thought about the woman who had struck his mother, who had valued status over love, performance over authenticity. That woman felt like a stranger now, but Ada knew she wasn't gone, just sleeping, waiting for the right conditions to resurface. I won't let you out, she whispered to that old self. Not tomorrow, not ever again. You almost destroyed everything precious. You don't get to drive anymore. She rose quietly, not wanting to wake Tund, and found her way to the kitchen where Mama Kimmy sat with a cup of tea. Apparently, Ada wasn't the only one too anxious to sleep. Big day tomorrow, Mama Kimmy said, smiling as Ada joined her. Are you nervous? Ada asked. Me? No. I've been feeding people my whole life. Rich people, poor people. Food is food, and love is love. But you're nervous, and that's okay. What if I fail? Then you get up and try again. Ada, let me tell you something your generation forgets. Failure isn't fatal. It's just information. If tomorrow goes badly, we learn from it. If it goes well, we celebrate. Either way, we keep growing. You make it sound so simple. It is simple. Not easy, simple. There's a difference. Mama Kimmy refilled her teacup, the simple domestic gesture somehow profound in the midnight quiet. Now go back to bed. Tomorrow, we show some foreign investors what real Nigerian family looks like. And if they don't like it, that's their loss, not ours. As Ada returned to bed, she felt the weight of tomorrow settling on her shoulders, but also the strength of 6 months' transformation supporting her spine. She had been tested in private, in therapy, in gardens and kitchens, in quiet moments of self-reflection. Tomorrow, she would be tested publicly, in front of witnesses who remembered the old Ada and would be watching for her return. She slid back under the covers beside Tund, who stirred slightly, his arm instinctively pulling her close even in sleep. This intimacy, this partnership, this real love was worth fighting for. Tomorrow, she would fight, not with pretense or performance, but with authenticity, vulnerability, and the courage to be real even when fake would be easier. The old Ada would have stayed up all night perfecting her outfit and her talking points. The new Ada said a prayer, trusted in her preparation and her growth, and chose rest. Rest was a revolutionary act when the world demanded constant performance. Tomorrow would come soon enough. The day of the dinner arrived with brilliant Lego sunshine, as if the heavens themselves were spotlighting the test ahead. Ada woke at 5 a.m., not from anxiety, but from habit. 6 months of early mornings had reset her internal clock. She found Mama Kimmy already in the kitchen, humming an old Yoruba hymn as she checked the ingredients laid out the night before. "You're here early even for you, Mama," Ada said, tying on her apron. The good one, still simple but freshly pressed. "Big day requires big preparation," Mama Kimmy replied, her weathered face calm and focused. "But we're not cooking for investors today, my daughter. We're cooking for family and guests. Same as we do every day, just more of it. Remember that." They worked in comfortable silence, their movements synchronized from months of cooking together. Ada chopped vegetables with the precision Mama Kimmy had taught her, her knife skills now rivaling any professional chef. The house gradually came alive around them. Chioma arriving to help with setup, Amara polishing silverware, Beezy preparing the dining room, Emeka ensuring the compound was pristine. At 8 a.m., Tun descended, already dressed in traditional attire, a burgundy agbada with gold embroidery that Ada had commissioned from a local tailor rather than an international designer. The symbolism wasn't lost on her. They were presenting Nigerian excellence, not Western approximation. "You're wearing traditional," Ada observed, pleased. "We're hosting in our home, showing our culture." It felt right. He surveyed the kitchen, the organized chaos of preparation, the genuine teamwork. "This is good. This is real. Don't change anything to impress them, Ada. Promise me." "I promise," she said, meaning it with everything in her. By noon, the house gleamed with cleanliness but not sterility. Fresh flowers from the garden, not expensive imported arrangements, adorned the tables. The dining room was set with beautiful but locally made pottery alongside fine china, a deliberate mix that said, "We honor both tradition and modernity." Photographs on the walls told their real story. Tun's graduation with Mama Kimmy in her simple dress, their modest wedding beginning before the 3-day spectacle, Ada working in the garden, family breakfasts around the table. At 2 p.m., Ngozi arrived early as requested, and Ada barely recognized her. Gone was the designer armor. Instead, her old friend wore a beautiful but simple Ankara dress, her makeup minimal, her expression vulnerable. "I couldn't decide what to wear," Ngozi admitted. "Everything in my closet felt like a costume. Finally, I remembered I'd bought this last year from a local designer and never wore it because it wasn't brand name enough. Is it okay?" Ada pulled her into a hug. "It's perfect. You're perfect. Thank you for coming." "I'm terrified," Ngozi whispered. "What if I say the wrong thing?" "What if?" "Then you say the wrong thing," Ada interrupted gently. "We're done with perfection, remember? We're trying authenticity. That means mistakes are allowed, even expected." Mama Kimmy appeared with tea and chin-chin, welcoming Ngozi with the warmth she showed everyone. "Ada has told me about you. The real you, not the Instagram you." I'm glad you came. By 4 p.m., the other guests began arriving. Tons board members and their wives came first. People Ada had entertained before, but never authentically. She saw their surprise at her simple elegance, her natural appearance, the way she greeted them personally rather than directing staff to do so. Mrs. Okafor, wife of the CFO, pulled Ada aside. You look different. Good different. Relaxed. I am relaxed, Ada replied honestly. For the first time in years, I'm not performing. Just being. It's liberating. I wish I knew how, Mrs. Okafor said wistfully, and Ada saw beneath her perfect exterior to the exhausted woman underneath. Start small, Ada suggested. Maybe skip the full makeup one day. Wear something comfortable instead of impressive. Tell one person one true thing about how you really feel. It's like exercise. You start light and build strength. The Chinese investors arrived precisely at 5 p.m., their car pulling up to a house that looked elegant but lived in, wealthy but warm. Mr. Chun was in his 60s, distinguished and observant. His wife, Margaret, was Malaysian Chinese, her smile professional but her eyes sharp, missing nothing. Tun made introductions in the living room, and Ada saw the investors cataloging everything. The family photos, the mix of traditional and modern, the genuine warmth as Mama Kimmy welcomed them in perfect English peppered with Yoruba phrases she didn't bother to translate. Your home is beautiful, Margaret Chin observed. So different from the usual Lagos mansion tours we get. Those feel like hotels. This feels like a home. Because it is one, Ada replied simply. We live here, work here, love here. The good, the messy, the real, all of it happens in these rooms. Dinner was served in stages, family style rather than formally plated. The jollof rice drew immediate appreciation, Mr. Chin taking a second helping before he'd finished the first. The Ifo Riro prompted questions about ingredients, which led to Mama Kimmy explaining her sourcing philosophy. Support local farmers, buy fresh daily, cook with love. In Singapore, we've lost this, Margaret said thoughtfully. This connection between food and community. Everything is efficient, but soulless. This meal has soul. Ada felt pride swell, not the old prideful superiority, but the quiet satisfaction of work well done, of values honored, of authenticity recognized. But she knew the real test was coming. It arrived with dessert. One of Tun's board members, Mr. Adelik, decided to probe. Ada, I heard you've made some lifestyle changes. Quite dramatic ones. Some people say you've had a breakdown. Care to comment? The table quieted. This was it. The moment where old Ada would have deflected with charm or new Ada could crumble under pressure. She felt Tun's eyes on her, Mama Kimmy's gentle presence, Ngozi's supportive expression. Ada set down her spoon carefully, buying a second to center herself. I did break down, she said clearly, her voice steady. I broke down all the fake parts of myself until only the real me remained. Best breakdown of my life. But why? Mrs. Adelik pressed, her curiosity genuine. You had everything, status, wealth, freedom. Why give that up to work like staff? Because I was miserable, Ada replied simply, and making everyone around me miserable. I thought status and wealth and performance would fill the emptiness inside me. They didn't. They just made the emptiness bigger and covered it with prettier decorations. Mr. Chin leaned forward, his observant eyes focused. This is interesting. In my experience, most people never recognize their own unhappiness, let alone change it. What triggered your recognition? Ada glanced at Mama Kimmy, who nodded encouragingly. Truth was the only option now. I hurt someone I loved. Badly. My mother-in-law, who had shown me nothing but kindness. I struck her, humiliated her, because she represented everything I was afraid of. Authenticity, humility, unconditional love. That moment showed me who I'd become. Someone I didn't recognize, someone I didn't want to be. The silence was profound. Ada saw shock on some faces, respect on others, calculation on a few. She had just admitted to domestic violence in front of crucial business partners. The old Ada would never have risked such honesty. Margaret Chin spoke into the silence, her voice soft. And your husband? How did he respond? He gave me a choice, Ada said, looking at Tun directly. Leave with dignity and financial support, or stay and transform completely. No middle ground. I chose transformation. We've spent 6 months rebuilding everything. My character, our marriage, this family. It's been the hardest work of my life and the most worthwhile. And you forgave her? Margaret asked Tun directly. Tun's response was measured, honest. I'm still forgiving her. Forgiveness isn't a moment. It's a process. Some days are easier than others. But I chose to believe in the possibility of change, of redemption. So far, she's proven that belief wasn't misplaced. Mr. Chin sat back, his expression thoughtful. In business, we talk about corporate transformation, changing company culture, rebranding, pivoting strategies. But personal transformation? That's rarer and harder because you can't fake it for long. The truth always surfaces. He looked directly at Ada. You could have hidden this history from us. Presented the perfect wife, the perfect family. Why didn't you? Because perfect is exhausting and fake, Ada answered. And because the whole point of my transformation was to stop performing and start being real. If I performed for you tonight, I'd be betraying everything I've learned. Besides, she added with a slight smile, Mama Kimmy taught me that good cooking requires honesty. Apparently, that applies to more than food. Mama Kimmy laughed, her warm presence breaking the tension. She's a good student. Stubborn sometimes, but good. She's teaching me too, about social media, about reaching young people with traditional values. We learn from each other. That's what family does. The conversation shifted then, moving to safer topics, business, culture, plans for the West Africa expansion. But something had changed in the room's atmosphere. The careful professional distance had dissolved into something more human, more connected. After dinner, as they moved to the living room for drinks, Margaret pulled Ada aside. Can I see your kitchen? Surprised, Ada led her there. The kitchen showed signs of the evening's work, cleaned but not yet pristine, evidence of real cooking rather than catered perfection. Margaret ran her hand over the wooden cutting boards, worn smooth from use. My grandmother had a kitchen like this in Malaysia, she said quietly. Before we got wealthy, before everything became about image. She cooked every day, taught me traditional recipes, talked about life while we chopped vegetables. I miss that. I miss her. Looking at your kitchen, I remembered what I've lost in the pursuit of. What? Impression? Status. She turned to Ada, her professional mask gone, revealing genuine emotion. Does it last? This authenticity you've found? I don't know, Ada admitted. I'm only 6 months in. Some days are easy. Others I have to fight every instinct to perform, to impress, to prove myself. But each day I choose real over fake, it gets a little easier. And the peace I feel now? That's worth fighting for. I envy you, Margaret said. You found the courage to change. Most of us just continue, performing until we don't remember what's real anymore. It's not too late, Ada said gently. It's never too late to choose differently. Start small. One authentic choice, then another, then another. They returned to the living room where Ngozi had somehow ended up in deep conversation with Mr. Chun about the pressure young Nigerian professionals face to maintain impossible standards. Tund was showing the board members photos of the company's community development projects. Wells dug, schools built, markets supported. The work that didn't make headlines, but changed lives. At 10 p.m., as guests prepared to leave, Mr. Chin asked for a private word with Tund and Ada. In the study, he got straight to the point. I came here expecting a show. Wealthy Africans trying to prove they're sophisticated enough for our investment. Instead, I found something rare, authenticity. A family that knows itself, honors its roots, and isn't afraid to be real. He paused, his expression serious. That honesty, that willingness to be vulnerable instead of impressive, that's the kind of character I want in business partners. People who can admit mistakes, who value relationships over reputation, who understand that real wealth isn't what you own, but who you are. So the investment? Tund asked, his face carefully neutral. Approved. Full 80 million, with one condition. Mr. Chin smiled. I want quarterly dinners like this. Real ones. No performance, no catering, no pretense. Just this, authentic hospitality, honest conversation, good food made with love. My wife and I have attended 1,000 business dinners. Tonight was the first one in years that felt like being welcomed into a family. That matters more than you know. After they left, after the last guest departed, after the house quieted, Ada found herself alone in the kitchen with Mama Kimmy, doing the final cleanup. They worked in comfortable silence, the way they had countless mornings over the past 6 months. You did well tonight, my daughter, Mama Kimmy said finally. We did well, Ada corrected. All of us. But Mama, I was so scared. When Mr. Adelik asked about my breakdown, I almost deflected, almost performed the old way. But you didn't. You chose truth. That's what matters. Margaret Chin asked me if it lasts, the authenticity. I said I don't know. That scared me too. What if this is just a phase? What if the old me comes back? Mama Kemi dried her hands, turned to face Ada fully. Listen carefully. The old you isn't coming back because she was never real. She was a performance you created to hide the scared, insecure girl underneath. The woman you are now, this is who you actually were all along, just buried under fear and false beliefs. You're not maintaining a transformation. You're finally being yourself. How do you always know the right thing to say? I don't. I just say what's true and hope it helps. Mama Kemi hugged Ada, her sturdy frame solid and reassuring. Now go to your husband. He's waiting for you, and he's proud. I can tell. Ada found Tund on the balcony, looking out at Lagos's nighttime sprawl. She joined him silently, and for a moment, they just stood together, two people who had been through fire and were slowly being refined by it. $80 million because we served jollof rice and told the truth, Tund said, wonder in his voice. 6 months ago, I would have said that was impossible. 6 months ago, I would have hired caterers and performed perfect hostess and driven everyone crazy with my anxiety, Ada replied. Tonight, I just was, and it was enough. You were magnificent, Tund said, turning to face her. When you told them the truth about what you did to Mama, I thought I might lose the deal. But then I realized, I don't care about the deal as much as I care about who you're becoming. If they couldn't handle your honesty, they weren't the right partners. And now we have partners who value the same things we do, who see authenticity as strength, not weakness, who understand that real wealth is measured in character, not currency. He pulled her close, his arms strong and warm around her. I'm proud of you. More than that, I'm grateful. You're teaching me too, you know, about grace, about growth, about giving second chances even when it's hard. They stood together under the Lego stars, two people who had almost lost everything and were slowly building something better from the ruins. The test wasn't over. It would never really be over. But tonight had proven that Ada's transformation could withstand pressure, could hold firm even when the old world came calling. Inside, Mama Kimmy finished the last dish, said a prayer of thanksgiving, and climbed the stairs to her room. Her heart was full. The family she had fought for, prayed for, believed in, they were healing. Not healed, but healing. And that was enough. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests, new opportunities to choose growth over comfort. But tonight, they could rest in the knowledge that authenticity had won. Not because it was easy or impressive or profitable, but because it was true. And truth, Mama Kimmy had learned in her 60-plus years, always wins in the end. It just takes patience, courage, and the willingness to be real even when fake would be easier. Ada woke to sunlight and the sound of her phone buzzing with notifications. For a moment, she considered ignoring it. The old Ada had been enslaved to her phone, to social media validation, to the constant need to document and perform her life. But curiosity won. Ngozi had posted photos from the dinner. Not the usual heavily filtered, perfectly staged shots, but real candid moments. Mama Kimmy laughing while explaining a recipe, Ada and Margaret in deep conversation in the kitchen, the whole table engaged in animated discussion. The caption read, "Last night I remembered what real hospitality feels like. Not performance, not impression, just genuine human connection. Thank you at Ada Adebayo for showing me that authentic is braver than perfect. Hashtag real life, hashtag no filter, hashtag Nigerian hospitality." The post had gone viral overnight. Hundreds of comments, mostly positive, some confused, a few hostile. Ada scrolled through them, watching her old world react to her new one. Finally, someone being real about Lagos life. Is this the same Ada who used to post designer hauls? What happened? Love this energy. We need more authenticity. She's obviously broke now and trying to make it look intentional. This is what happens when women lose themselves in marriage. No, this is what happens when women find themselves. The comments went on, strangers debating her transformation, her choices, her authenticity. The old Ada would have been devastated by the criticism, energized by the praise, constantly refreshing to see new reactions. The new Ada felt detached, not uncaring, but recognizing that other people's opinions, positive or negative, were just noise. Her worth wasn't determined by strangers' validation. She set the phone down and went to the kitchen, where Mama Kemi was teaching Amara advanced bread techniques. The young maid's face lit up when Ada entered. "Madam Ada, everyone is talking about your dinner. My sister sent me screenshots. People are saying you started a movement or something." "Not a movement," Ada corrected gently. "Just one woman choosing to live honestly. If that inspires others, wonderful. But it's not about creating followers. It's about finding yourself." Tund appeared, already dressed for the office, his phone also buzzing. "The board is thrilled. Mr. Chin sent a message saying his wife hasn't stopped talking about last night. Apparently, Margaret wants to start cooking again, wants to reconnect with her Malaysian roots. She's asking if Mama Kemi would consider teaching her." Mama Kemi looked up from her bread dough, surprised. "Me? Teach a sophisticated woman like that?" "You taught me," Ada pointed out. "And I was possibly more lost than Margaret. At least she knows she's lost. I didn't even know that much." The morning routine proceeded normally. Breakfast with the household, Ada and Mama Kemi preparing while others set the table, everyone sharing the meal together. But Ada noticed something new. The staff seemed more animated, more confident, as if last night's success had validated something for them too. Chioma spoke up during breakfast. "Madam Ada, my daughter asked me something this morning. She said her friends' mothers are all posting about wanting to be authentic now, like you. She asked if you're famous." "I'm not famous," Ada said firmly. "I'm just public about my growth. There's a difference. Famous means people know your name. I want people to know the possibility of change, of choosing real over fake. If my story helps someone else start their own journey, that's good. But I'm not a guru or an influencer or anything special. I'm just a woman who almost destroyed her life and chose differently." After breakfast, as Ada prepared for her daily therapy session, yes, still, even 6 months in, because growth was ongoing, her old friend Kemi called. Not texted, called, which meant serious conversation. "Ada, I need to ask you something," Kemi said without preamble. "Last night, when you talked about your breakdown, about hitting Mama Kemi, was that true? Or were you being metaphorical or something?" Ada's stomach tightened. Here it was, the real reckoning. Her old friends hadn't fully processed the truth last night, hadn't understood she meant it literally. "It was true. Literally true. I physically struck my mother-in-law. It's the worst thing I've ever done, and the thing that finally woke me up." Silence. Then, "Ada, that's abuse. Domestic violence. How are you not canceled? How is Tun still with you? How did you not go to jail?" Because Tun chose redemption over revenge. Because Mama Kemi chose forgiveness over pressing charges. Because they both believed in the possibility of change. And because I chose to do the actual work of transformation instead of just apologizing and continuing. "But that's not fair," Kemi burst out. "If a man hit his mother-in-law, we'd destroy him. He'd lose everything. Why should you get a second chance?" Ada felt the question like a punch. It was fair, painfully fair. "You're right. It's not equal. If Tund had done what I did, the consequences would have been more severe, more public, more permanent. That's privilege, gender privilege, class privilege, the privilege of having a family that valued restoration over destruction. I don't deserve it. That's what makes it grace. So what? You just get to move on. Write a new narrative? Become an inspiration while you're victim." "My victim," Ada interrupted quietly, "is downstairs teaching my housemaid how to make bread. My victim chose to teach me instead of destroy me. My victim forgave me not because I deserved it, but because she's more interested in who I'm becoming than who I was. I wake up every day grateful and terrified, grateful for the grace I've been given, terrified of ever betraying it. That's not just moving on. That's living under the weight of mercy while trying to become worthy of it." Another long silence. Then Kemi's voice, smaller. "I think I'm jealous. Not of what you did, God, no, but of the fact that you faced your worst self and changed. Most of us just avoid our mirrors. Keep performing until we forget what we're hiding. It's not too late for you," Ada said. "For any of us. But Kemi, I need you to understand. I'm not selling transformation as easy or inspiring or Instagram-worthy. It's brutal. It's daily. It's choosing growth over comfort 1,000 times a day. If you're looking for a quick fix or a trendy movement, this isn't it. What is it then? Survival. I was dying inside that perfect performance. Transformation wasn't aspirational. It was necessary. Like breathing. I changed or I suffocated. They talked for another hour, Kimmy asking hard questions, Ada giving honest answers. By the end, Kimmy admitted she needed to think, to sit with some uncomfortable truths about her own life. They hung up with tentative plans to meet, really meet, with masks off and defenses down. Dr. Nwosu's session that afternoon focused on the dinner, on Ada's handling of public vulnerability, on the viral social media response. The therapist, as always, asked the hard questions. How did it feel to be praised for your authenticity? Good. Too good. That's what worries me. What if I start performing authenticity? What if this becomes a new way to seek validation? That's a legitimate concern, Dr. Nwosu acknowledged. Authenticity can become its own performance if we're not careful. How will you guard against that? Ada thought carefully. Keep checking my motivations. When I share something, ask myself, am I doing this to help others or to impress others? Am I being vulnerable or performing vulnerability? And keep people around me. Mama Kimmy, Tund, you, who will call me out if I start performing again. Good. What about the criticism? The people saying you don't deserve forgiveness, that you're getting away with abuse. They're not wrong, Ada said slowly. I don't deserve what I've been given. That's literally the definition of grace, unmerited favor. But I think where they miss the point is, this isn't about what I deserve. It's about what Mama Kimmy and Tund chose to offer. Their forgiveness is their choice, not my entitlement. My job is to honor that choice by continuing to grow, not to defend it or justify it. Later that evening, as Ada worked in the garden, her meditation space now, the place she went to process and pray, she heard voices from the gate. Visitors, unexpected. Chioma appeared, her kind face uncertain. Madam, there are many women at the gate. They say they saw Ngozi's post and want to meet you. Want to learn how you changed. Should I send them away? Ada's first instinct was to say yes, to protect her peace, to avoid the spotlight. But then she remembered Margaret Chun in the kitchen last night, asking if authenticity lasted, confessing her own lostness. How many women were standing at that gate carrying the same question? How many? Ada asked. Maybe 15? 20? They seem genuine, madam. Not media or influencers. Just women. Ada made a decision that would change everything, though she didn't know it yet. Let them in. Bring them to the garden. I'll meet with them here, in the dirt, where transformation actually happens. 23 women filed into the garden, diverse in age and appearance, but united in their expression, hungry for something real. Ada didn't stand to greet them formally. She stayed kneeling in the dirt, hands muddy from planting, face bare of makeup, body language open, but not performing hostess mode. I don't know what you're expecting, she began honestly, but I'm not a guru. I'm not selling a program or a method or a transformation package. I'm just a woman who almost destroyed her life and chose differently. If you want to talk about that, I'm happy to. But please understand, I don't have all the answers. I'm still figuring this out myself. An older woman, maybe 50, spoke first. My daughter sent me your friend's post. I've been performing perfect wife, perfect mother, perfect society woman for 30 years. I'm exhausted. How do you stop? One choice at a time, Ada replied. For me, it started with choosing honesty over impression, then choosing work over entitlement, then choosing growth over comfort. Each choice built on the previous one until eventually, the authentic life felt more natural than the performed one. But it's daily. Even now, 6 months in, I still have moments where I want to perform instead of being real. A younger woman, maybe late 20s, raised her hand tentatively. What if being authentic means admitting you married the wrong person? That your whole life is built on a lie? The question hung heavy in the garden air. Ada took her time answering. I don't know. That's not my story. I married the right person, but became the wrong version of myself. But I think authenticity means being honest about what is, and then making choices from that truth. Maybe that means rebuilding with the person you're with. Maybe it means acknowledging the relationship can't be fixed. But lying to yourself doesn't serve anyone, least of all you. The questions kept coming, each one revealing a woman trapped in some version of performance, hungry for permission to be real. Ada answered what she could, admitted what she didn't know, and kept bringing the conversation back to the same point. Transformation isn't a destination, it's a daily choice. Mama Kimmy appeared with tea and snacks, her presence adding weight to the gathering. One woman asked her directly, How did you forgive her? After what she did. Mama Kimmy settled onto a garden bench, her weathered face thoughtful. Forgiveness isn't pretending hurt didn't happen. These ribs remember. She touched her side where the bruises had been. But I had a choice. Let that day define our future, or let her transformation redefine our relationship. I chose to believe in the possibility of change. So far, she's proven that belief wasn't foolish. But weren't you afraid she'd hurt you again? Terrified, Mama Kimmy admitted. Those first weeks, every sudden movement made me flinch. But fear can't be the basis for how we live. I had to choose, live in fear or live in faith. I chose faith, not blind faith. Ada had to earn trust back through consistent action, but I chose to give her the opportunity to earn it. As the sun set, the women began to leave, each one carrying something different, a question to sit with, a choice to make, permission to stop performing. Several exchanged phone numbers, spontaneously forming a group to support each other's authenticity journeys. After the last one left, Ada remained in the garden, processing what had just happened. Tund found her there, sitting in the dirt watching the sunset. Chioma told me about your visitors, he said, joining her on the ground, not caring about his work clothes. That was brave, meeting with them. I don't know if it was brave or foolish, Ada admitted. What if this becomes a thing? What if people start expecting me to be some kind of authenticity teacher? I'm not qualified for that. You're qualified by experience, Tund countered. You've walked the path from performance to authenticity. That's the only qualification that matters. But Ada, his voice turned serious. You need to guard your heart. The spotlight, even a spotlight on authenticity, can become its own trap. Don't let helping others become a new performance. That's exactly what I'm afraid of, Ada confessed. The praise felt good today. Too good. What if I start seeking it? What if I build a new identity as authentic Ada that's just as fake as the old one? Tund was quiet for a moment, considering. Then we keep having conversations like this. We keep checking in, keeping each other honest. You have accountability, me, Mama, Dr. Nwosu, even Ngozi now. Use it. And remember, the goal isn't to build a following or a movement. The goal is to keep growing. If your growth happens to inspire others, wonderful. But your growth is primary, not your influence. They sat together as darkness fell, two people learning to be honest with each other after years of various performances. Above them, Lego's stars emerged, the same stars that had witnessed Ada's breakdown 6 months ago, her transformation since her test last night. The same stars that would witness whatever came next, because this wasn't an ending, just another beginning. Transformation, Ada was learning, wasn't a destination you reached and then maintained. It was a direction you chose, every day, sometimes every hour. Tonight, she had chosen it with strangers in the garden. Tomorrow, she would choose it again, in whatever form the test arrived. And the day after that. And the day after that. One authentic choice at a time, building a life that was real instead of impressive, true instead of perfect, hers instead of performed. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything. 3 days after the garden gathering, life had settled into a new rhythm. Ada woke each morning still surprised by the peace she felt, still grateful for the second chance she'd been given. The viral attention was fading, the women from the garden had formed their own support group, and the Chun investment was moving forward smoothly. Too smoothly. It was Tuesday morning, 5:47 a.m., when Ada noticed Mama Kimmy wasn't in the kitchen. In 6 months, this had never happened. The older woman was always there first, humming her Yoruba hymns, preparing for the day. Ada's stomach clenched with immediate worry. She found Mama Kimmy's bedroom door closed. Knocked softly. Mama, a weak voice. Come in, my daughter. Mama Kimmy was still in bed, her weathered face pale, her breathing labored. Sweat beaded on her forehead despite the air conditioning. Mama, Ada rushed to her side, touching her forehead, burning hot. How long have you been feeling sick? Few days, Mama Kimmy admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Didn't want to worry anyone. The dinner was so important, and then all those women came. I just needed to rest. Few days. Ada's voice rose with panic. Mama, you should have said something. She was already reaching for her phone to call Tund, to call Dr. Adelik. Mama Kimmy's weathered hand caught hers, surprisingly strong despite her weakness. Ada, listen. If something happens to me, nothing is going to happen to you. Ada interrupted. tears already forming. We're getting you to the hospital right now. Listen, Mama Kimmy's voice gained strength, urgent. If something happens, you need to know, there's a letter. In my room, in the blue box under my bed. For Tund. He needs to read it. Needs to know the truth about. She gasped, pain crossing her face, her hand going to her chest. Mama? Mama! Ada's scream brought Chioma running. Within minutes, the house erupted in controlled chaos. Tund calling for an ambulance, staff praying. Ada holding Mama Kimmy's hand as the older woman's breathing became more labored. As the paramedics loaded Mama Kimmy onto the stretcher, her eyes found Ada's. The blue box, she whispered. Promise me, if I don't make it. Tund needs to know everything. You're going to make it, Ada insisted, climbing into the ambulance beside her. You have to make it, Mama. I'm not done learning from you. We're not done being family. But as the ambulance raced through Lagos's early morning streets, sirens wailing, Ada saw Mama Kimmy's eyes flutter closed. The monitors beeped urgently. The paramedic's face showed concern. What's happening? Ada demanded. What's wrong with her? Her heart. The paramedic said grimly, working frantically. We need to get her to the hospital. Now. Tund met them at the hospital entrance, his face stricken. As doctors rushed Mama Kimmy into emergency, Ada collapsed into her husband's arms, the weight of 6 months of transformation suddenly feeling fragile, dependent on the woman who had taught her everything. She was talking about a letter. Ada sobbed against Tund's chest. In a blue box. Something you need to know. Tund, what if she doesn't? Don't. Tund said firmly, though his voice shook. Don't say it. She's strong. She'll fight. They waited in the sterile hospital corridor, time stretching impossibly. Chioma arrived with Amara and Beezy. Emeka paced by the windows. The whole household had come. This woman who had been mentor, teacher, mother to all of them. 3 hours passed. 4. A doctor finally emerged, his face grave. Mr. Adebayo? Your mother had a severe heart attack. We've stabilized her for now, but... He paused, choosing words carefully. The next 48 hours are critical. She's in ICU. Only immediate family. One visitor at a time. As Tund went in first, Ada found herself alone with her thoughts, with her terror, with the sudden realization of how much she'd come to depend on Mama Kimmy. Not just as teacher or mother-in-law, but as the foundation of her entire transformation. What if that foundation crumbled? What if she lost the woman who had forgiven her, taught her, believed in her when she didn't believe in herself? And what was in that blue box? What truth did Mama Kimmy think Tund needed to know? What secret had she been carrying? When Ada finally entered the ICU room, Mama Kimmy looked small and fragile, connected to machines, her weathered face peaceful but pale. Ada took her hand, those calloused hands that had taught her to cook, to work, to love authentically. I'm here, Mama, she whispered. I'm here, and I'm not leaving. Whatever happens, I'm here. You taught me how to be present, how to be real. Now let me show you I learned. But Mama Kimmy didn't respond. The machines beeped steadily. The monitors showed a heart struggling to keep beating. And in the mansion across Lagos, in Mama Kimmy's room, a blue box sat under the bed, waiting, holding secrets that would test Ada's transformation in ways the investor dinner never could. Because it's one thing to choose authenticity when your teacher is there to guide you. It's another thing entirely when she might be gone. And the truth she left behind might change everything. Will Mama Kimmy survive? What secrets lie in the blue box under her bed? How will Ada handle the ultimate test, maintaining her transformation without the woman who made it possible? If this story touched your heart, if you're holding your breath waiting to know what happens next, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment telling us, could you forgive like Mama Kimmy did? Could you change like Ada did? Part 3 is coming, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when secrets surface and forgiveness faces its ultimate test. Until then, hold your loved ones close. Life is fragile. Transformation is powerful. And sometimes the greatest test comes not when we're ready, but when we're most vulnerable. Stay blessed. Stay authentic. And come back for part 3.